The most successful people in the world almost never started by following their passion. They discovered it. The advice you've been given for decades is a compass pointing in exactly the wrong direction, and chances are, it's the reason you feel so stuck. This isn't about crushing your dreams. It's about finding the ones that are actually real. The core of this advice is a dangerous myth, that passion is something you find, that it exists inside you, fully formed, like a buried treasure waiting to be unearthed. Once you dig it up, your work life will be effortless, blissful. This is the passion hypothesis. You're supposed to first figure out what you love, then find a job that matches it. The problem is, for most people, this is a recipe for chronic job hopping and a persistent feeling of dissatisfaction. A 2002 study of Canadian university students found that while 84% claimed to have a passion, these passions were almost exclusively hobbies like sports, dance, and reading. These rarely translate into viable careers. Fewer than 4% of their passions were related to work or education. The data is clear. Most people don't have a pre-existing job-ready passion just sitting there. So what happens when you're told to find one? You start to believe something is wrong with you. This creates a specific kind of anxiety. The pressure to find your one true calling can be paralyzing. You look at your interests, and none of them seem big enough, important enough to build a life around. So you wait. You stay in a job you dislike, telling yourself it's temporary, just until you figure out your real passion. This waiting becomes a career in itself. Years go by, the perfect job never reveals itself because it was never there to begin with. You end up confusing a pleasant hobby with a viable profession. You might love painting on weekends, but the reality of being a professional artist involves marketing, client management, and financial uncertainty. The activity you loved becomes a source of stress. The passion dies under the pressure of monetization, but the alternative, the path that actually works, is something almost nobody talks about. It involves flipping the entire model on its head. The alternative is called the Craftsman mindset. It argues that what makes people love their work are the traits of the job itself. Things like autonomy, a sense of mastery, and impact on others. These qualities have almost nothing to do with the specific subject matter. You could learn to love being an accountant, a software developer, or a skilled tradesperson if the job provides these core elements. The Craftsman mindset focuses on what you can offer the world. The passion hypothesis focuses on what the world can offer you. One is about creating value. The other is about extracting a feeling. Think about it like a relationship. The passion mindset is like searching for a perfect soulmate who will make you happy forever. The Craftsman mindset is about becoming a great partner and building a fulfilling relationship through effort and dedication. One is a fantasy of reception. The other is the reality of creation. Here's where the idea gets traction. When you adopt the Craftsman mindset, you stop asking, "What is my true calling?" and start asking, "How can I become so good they can't ignore me?" You focus on acquiring rare and valuable skills. This is a difficult, often frustrating process. It requires deliberate practice. It requires pushing past the point of comfort. There's nothing romantic about it. Yet this hard-won skill is what creates passion as a side effect. As you get better at something, you develop a sense of competence. You start seeing the nuances and complexities that a novice misses. You gain the respect of your peers. And with that skill, you gain leverage. Career capital. This capital is the key that unlocks the very job traits that generate deep satisfaction. It's what allows you to demand more autonomy, to work on more interesting projects, and to see your impact. Passion is the result of getting good at something valuable. You build it. You earn it. You don't find it. Let's look at how this plays out. Imagine a junior graphic designer who starts a new job. The passion hypothesis tells her to ask, "Do I love this work? Does it fulfill my soul?" After a few weeks of resizing banners and correcting typos, the answer is probably no. She feels like a fraud and starts looking for another job that might be her true passion. The cycle repeats. Now, consider the same designer with a craftsman mindset. She sees the tedious work as an opportunity to master the fundamentals of typography and layout. She studies the work of senior designers. She puts in extra hours to learn a new piece of software that nobody else on her team knows. A year later, she's the go-to person for a specific type of complex project. She's built career capital. With that capital, she can now negotiate to lead a new branding initiative, She has more creative control, more autonomy. She starts to feel a deep sense of engagement and pride in her work. The passion has arrived. It was earned, not discovered. Critics of this idea often say it's a recipe for being a soulless cog in a machine. They argue that you'll end up trapped in a field you hate just because you're good at it. This misses the point. The craftsman mindset isn't blind. It requires you to pursue skills in a field that has the potential to offer autonomy, mastery, and impact. There are jobs that are dead ends, offering little room for skill development or growth. The key is to identify fields where building capital is possible and where that capital is rewarded. A job that consists of turning the same screw on an assembly line 1,000 times a day offers no path to mastery or autonomy. A job as a medical technician, a data analyst, or a master plumber absolutely does. The question isn't whether you love the field on day one. The question is whether the field has a path for you to become excellent, and whether that excellence will be rewarded with the things that truly matter for job satisfaction. Let's ground this in a real story. Steve Jobs is often held up as the poster child for following your passion. In his famous Stanford commencement speech, he said, "You've got to find what you love." It's a great line. It's also a dramatic rewriting of his own history. If you look at the young Steve Jobs, his passions were for Zen Buddhism and Eastern mysticism. He traveled to India. He spent time at a commune. His interest in electronics was, at best, a hobby he used to make a quick buck with his friend Steve Wozniak. Apple was started as a way to sell a few dozen of Wozniak's circuit boards. It was a side hustle. Jobs was pushed into the role of a visionary leader by circumstance. He became passionate about design and technology as he built the company. He didn't start with a burning passion to build personal computers. He developed it through the brutal, demanding process of trying to create something great. He was a craftsman first. The passion followed the mastery. His own advice, in retrospect, was a summary of the feeling at the end of the journey, not a map of how to start it. The danger of the passion hypothesis goes even deeper. It sets up a fragile identity. When your work is your passion, any criticism of your work becomes a criticism of you. A failed project isn't just a setback, it's an existential threat. It means you failed at the one thing you were meant to do. This creates immense pressure and makes it harder to take the creative risks necessary for great work. You become defensive. You avoid honest feedback because it feels like a personal attack. The craftsman, on the other hand, has a more resilient identity. Their focus is on the quality of the work. Criticism is valuable data. A failed project is an opportunity to learn and improve the craft. The self is separate from the output. This detachment allows for objectivity and relentless improvement. It's the difference between an artist who is crushed by a bad review and an engineer who sees a failed stress test as crucial information to build a stronger bridge. One identity is brittle, the other is anti-fragile. So how do you actually apply this? The first step is to discard the question, "What is my passion?" and replace it with, "What is a valuable skill I can master?" Look at the job market. What abilities are in demand? What skills are difficult to acquire, but provide immense leverage once you have them? Choose one that aligns with your general interests and aptitudes. Then, commit to a period of intense, deliberate practice. This is the part everyone wants to skip. It's the boring part. It's the hours spent studying, practicing, and getting feedback. It's reading the dense technical manuals. It's writing code that fails over and over until it finally works. During this phase, your feelings are irrelevant. You're a craftsman honing a tool. You're an apprentice. The goal is to build career capital. Once you have that capital, you begin to invest it. You use your leverage to shape your career toward those core traits: autonomy, mastery, and impact. You might use your new skills to move into a role with more freedom, or to launch your own project. You might take on a mentorship role, which provides a profound sense of purpose. This is the stage where passion truly ignites. It's born from the confidence of competence and the freedom of autonomy. It's the feeling a master carpenter gets when they can look at a piece of wood and know exactly how to shape it into something beautiful and useful. That feeling was not there on her first day in the workshop, when all she had was a pile of splinters. It was built, joint by joint, over thousands of hours. There's a biological reason this works. When you successfully master a complex skill, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine. This is the same neurotransmitter associated with motivation and pleasure. As you practice and improve, you create a feedback loop. Effort leads to improvement, which leads to a dopamine reward, which motivates more effort. You are literally rewiring your brain to become passionate about the skill you are developing. The passion hypothesis asks you to wait for a feeling to motivate action. The Craftsman mindset understands that action creates the feeling. It aligns with the fundamental mechanics of how our brains learn and build motivation. You are not waiting for inspiration, you are building the neural architecture of inspiration itself. Think of it like learning a musical instrument. Almost no one feels passionate the first time they try to play the violin. It makes a screeching, awful sound. It's frustrating. The fingers don't cooperate. The passion hypothesis would tell you to quit and try the piano instead. Maybe that's your true calling. The Craftsman mindset says to stick with the violin, practice the scales, suffer through the screeching, hire a good teacher. After hundreds of hours, you play your first beautiful melody. In that moment, a flicker of passion ignites. You've created something beautiful where before there was only noise. You see a path forward. The more you practice, the more complex and beautiful the music you can create, and the deeper your passion becomes. The passion is a reward for the discipline. It's the consequence of the craft. The phrase, "follow your passion," sounds liberating. It feels like permission to do what you love. But for most, it functions as a cage. It traps you in a state of indecision, always wondering if there's something better out there. It makes you feel deficient for not having a singular burning purpose. It encourages you to devalue the hard work of building real skills. The Craftsman mindset offers a more reliable, more robust path to a life of deep engagement. It's a slower, harder path. It requires patience and humility. It asks you to focus on what you can give before you worry about what you can get. It promises that if you build something valuable, the passion will find you. The ballot box of your identity is open. Every hour you spend mastering a craft is a vote for a more competent, autonomous, and ultimately, a more passionate version of yourself. The choice was never about finding the right door. It was always about building your own key.